I say, hey, I want to be a Marine. Put me, like, give me a weapon, put me in the front line. The only thing I could think about is like, people's lives are on my hands. It was a legitimate war zone. And we're sitting there, beautiful sea, and buildings are disappearing. I get out of the military, nobody cared. I didn't understand what that would feel like. Had PTSD, had depression. I was the coolest I would ever be at 25. Within 6 months of finding jiu-jitsu, my life changed. And so I was like, I gotta show other people this. This is magical.
Welcome to another episode of Fit to Serve. I'm Tim Wilkins. This is where we highlight and showcase the men and women in uniform, from our amazing military to our first responders, all that they've done and all they continue to do for their communities, and how fitness is a huge part of their lives. We are very honored today to have a Marine veteran, because I get to have a fellow Marine on set, which is awesome. Machine gunner, multiple deployments, and a man doing great things now for our veterans and for many, many more. Jarek Fry, when we talked, you were not short on things to say, and you were drinking a Jocko Fuel.
Always.
So you go hard.
Yes, sir. Always. Well, thank you very much for having me on the show today. I really appreciate it. You know, my mission and my calling, as you will hear throughout the day, is that I'm here to spread this message, not because I want to, not because I have an ego, but because I have to, because it saves lives.
That I love. So I like to start with a lot of guys, and you had a very interesting, everybody's path to the military is a little different, but when it comes to Army and almost all Marines, the path is pretty similar. We all have that part in our lives in our childhood where we think, all right, I'm going the wrong direction, or I'm going the right direction, but there's been something in the wrong direction where you go, you know what? I could probably use Uncle Sam's shiny boot in my butt.
Yeah.
That was something similar for you?
Yeah, absolutely, man. So like I grew up in Western Pennsylvania, you know, blue collar family, like mom works, dad works. It's a blue collar grind, right? It's like what I like to call it. So, you know, they get up at 4 a.m., they work all day, both families work, and then they come home and that's what they do, wash, repeat for the rest of their life until they retire or die.
Well, and for a lot of America, that's a really respectable, that life, the family, the job, it's honest.
Yep.
It's really honest, but that isn't for everybody, where at some point you have a calling, you say, there's something that's really drawing me to serve, to get out of this town, to see the world. That was definitely your case.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, so seeing that with my family, like absolutely I learned things from my father and like, you know, his hard work and his work ethic and his loyalty. You know, he is through and through loyal. And I saw that growing up, but I knew that I didn't want to just jump directly into that. You know, like a lot of these people in Pennsylvania or across the country, blue collar areas, they'll immediately jump into working at 18 because you have to, right? That's what you do. You graduate high school, you go to work, or you go to college. You know, and I knew college wasn't for me, right? And I didn't want to just go to the working force. So what's the other option?
The military.
Absolutely.
So, as a former recruiter, you were both a dream and a nightmare.
I won't hold that against you.
When we sucked a lot of souls. We talked about it off camera, that there's a lot of guys in the veteran community that have expanded on their journey as a veteran and the things that they did and their contributions. And I'm not going to say stolen valor, but they're a lot more exciting in conversation than they were in uniform.
Yeah, absolutely.
I will say honestly, in my years of service, my greatest accomplishments as a recruiter were finding better people than I to wear the Eagle Globe and Anchor, to become Marines.
Yeah.
And I'm honored to have done that, to put some great people in those uniforms. So you walk into the recruiting office and you just don't say, you know, I'd like to see about the GI Bill and I'd like to see about service. Any job will do. You're there to kick down doors.
Yeah, absolutely. So rewind a little bit before walking through that door. And so I'm sitting on my back porch of my concrete steps after a football practice, because I was a football player, my junior going to senior year, and my eyes washed out and I got flooded with anxiety, right? Never had I felt that in my life. And I started to think and panic almost on what was I going to do the rest of my life. I hated school, so college was out. I did not want to go to the workforce. And it became very clear to me that I needed to go join the military. You know, this is 2004. So we were in the heat of the war. Like, this is Iraq, this is Fallujah, this is Ramadi. Like, you're seeing it on the TV constantly, in the newspaper. And as much as I didn't pay attention, you're still aware. So I literally got up off my steps in my clothes I was working out in, got in my 1986 Dodge Omni, and I drove it to the recruiting station. Walked through the door. You know, I was a recruiter's wet dream, right?
Yes and no. I like where this story is going. I'll tell you where you were not a recruiter's wet dream. I'll tell you.
So walk through the door, and I say, hey, I want to be a Marine. And they're like, all right, hold on, buddy. You know, like, we got to do some stuff. And I was like, no, I want to be a Marine. Give me a weapon, put me in the front line. And he's like, hold on, buddy. Like,
anybody that says that, 9 out of 10 times as a Marine recruiter, they were what's called a rock with lips.
Yeah.
They were not going to pass the ASVAB.
Yep.
You killed it.
Yeah, absolutely. So they had me do these little cards. They do like the honor service commitment cards, right? They made me go through this stuff, jump through some hoops, like fill out a couple people's pieces of paper, and then they asked me if I did the ASVAB, where I didn't even know what that was. I've legitimately never heard of that term ASVAB to that point. And he goes, well, did you take a test in 10th grade to get out of school? And I said, yeah, absolutely, I did that. You know, and so he goes, well, let's pull up your social, buddy. Like, let's calm down a little bit. I'm sure he thought that I was an idiot. Fair enough. But so he pulls up my ASVAB, and I had scored extremely high on the ASVAB score test. And like, honestly, I took it to get out of school. That was the only purpose of me taking that test. So he goes, wait a second. He's like, you can do anything you want. He's like, you can pick any job you want in the Marine Corps. And I said, I told you, like, give me a gun, put me in the front lines. I want to go fight, right? And so, like, when I had that calling on my heart, like, once I, like, discovered that, like, that's what I was going to do, and it was that day that I was going to go to the Marine Corps, there was no question of what job I wanted. You know, and so when I went there and sat, he tried to talk me out of it.
Intel, logistics, all kinds of things with those high scores.
Yep.
And you wanted to be a machine gunner.
Yep, period. Yeah, there was nothing moving it. So he tried to talk me out of it, even told me that I wouldn't really have a career when I got out. And again, I told him I didn't care, but I mean, I was 17 years old. Like,
you don't see a career at 17.
No, absolutely not. You're thinking directly in front of you, what's the next thing? What do I want to do? So I talked him into it. We did the paperwork, and then I was 17. I was turning 18 in 2 months in August. So I had picked a ship date 3 days after my graduation date. And why? Well, so at this point, I was drinking, like, regularly. I was a football player. I had fun. I didn't really get in trouble, but I was drinking all the time. I had friends getting in trouble for drinking and DUIs and whatever at that point. And I was like, man, if I don't get out of this area, I'm going to get in trouble. You know? So I picked that ship date 3 days after graduation. And then I had to convince my parents later that night that they needed to sign this paperwork because I was 17. So I go home, and Mom's sitting there, and I said, hey, Mom, I just joined the Marine Corps. You know, she's shocked, right? Because we had never talked about it. I'd literally never spoke about it prior to that day. And she was shocked, and she's like, I was like, well, the recruiter's coming over later. You guys got to sign the paperwork. I'm 17. I'm going 3 days after graduation. And they're like, well, let's think about it. Let's talk about it. And I was like, there's nothing to talk about.
Yeah.
Right. So the recruiter comes, and that asshole tells my parents that I could have any job that I wanted in the Marine Corps and didn't have to be a machine gunner. So tries to talk me out of it. Again, I was unwilling to move, you know, and I basically had to tell my parents that if they wouldn't sign the paperwork that day, it was going to end up pushing my ship date. And, like, I did not want to do that at all. And I, like, guilted them into signing the paperwork so that I could ship 3 days after graduation.
So they signed.
Yep, absolutely.
So I had a similar situation. I was 17, and my mom had to sign for me, and she threw a fit. And in front of the recruiter, she said, in our family, we don't join the USMC. And I said, what do we join, Mom? She said, AA. True story. And it got a big laugh out of the recruiter, who then said, man, just sign the freaking papers.
Yeah.
Just sign the papers, would you? And she signed. She relented.
Yeah.
But it was the same kind of thing. And I'd already started community college. It wasn't the direction my head was pointing.
Yeah.
So you ship, you go to Paris Island, because you're a West Coast, you're an East Coaster.
Yep. First time on a plane.
First time on a plane.
Yep.
So you jump on a plane, you get there, and you get there early for, the Marines have a special way that they put in confusion to the indoctrination process, and you're there really early.
Yep. Yeah, absolutely. So I get to this, first time on a plane, first time south of Maryland, right, ever in my life. And, I'm in this phase, and now I started thinking, like, what did I get myself into? The reality of, like, this is real now. I had been going through high school for like a year just saying, like, I'm deploying, I'm going to country, like, I'm going to go join the fight, right? And it felt cool.
Yeah.
But then when you're on a plane, it doesn't feel so cool. Felt a little more real.
Yeah.
So I'm flying down there. I get there. They put you on a bus. They move you around. They make you put your heads down when you get to the base, and then they put you in the forming. And I'm waiting in this forming area, and they don't tell you anything. They cut your hair off. You're wearing dirty clothes, and they put you on your sea bag in a corner up against the wall, and you can't talk, and you're covered in hair. It could have been 2 weeks.
But it was a day.
Yeah.
Just so you know, it was a day.
Yeah. Could have been 2 weeks, right? I'm like itchy and I stink, and everybody's like afraid and quiet, and they're sitting there, right? And I guarantee every single person there is questioning their choices up to this point.
If you weren't, you didn't do it right. And then you've got to make that call home to mom.
Yep.
They give you about 7 seconds to say you're alive, and then it just goes.
Yeah.
So boot camp for you, though, was successful.
Yeah, absolutely. At first, it was a little, there was a little bit of a settling in, right? Just figuring out the routine. But I quickly conformed and fit to the routine, And when I did, another cool thing is there was about 10 of us out of 80 in my platoon that were going infantry. We were infantry contracts. So we had one of our drill instructors who was an infantry drill instructor, which everybody else was not. So he kind of took special care of us, right? Like, so he would actually like pull us aside, spend extra time with us, like reward us for joining after 9/11, going to war, which actually like, it made you feel proud, and like it kind of boosted you up a little bit because like we signed the contract to be infantry. So after like that transition, man, I fit right in. I think I was a squad leader for quite a while, like on and off. Stood out as a leader everywhere we went. I kind of just fit in, like things started to make sense to me, and it was very easy. Once everything kind of started to make sense, man, it was like I always think of, like it's like a round peg in a round hole, right? Like it fit perfectly.
Yeah.
It was easy, and I was like, wow, this stuff is great, and so I started excelling. Everything we did, I did well. PT, I got in shape like that. I was a little heavy going to boot camp.
Were you really?
I was like 220, like 215.
At what height? Because they'll give you
6'2".
It's not a diet private.
No.
But people at home, if you're watching and you're not military in the Marines, in boot camp, I don't know, a long time ago.
PRP.
If you were overweight, you'll actually have on your name tag red stripes, so you get fewer portions in the chow hall.
Yeah, the pork chop platoon.
The pork chop platoon.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. So no, I wasn't there, but I was drinking a lot and I was eating bad. Like going into boot camp, I was not preparing physically to go to it. So I went there a little heavy, So as I got there, that had to acclimate, and it acclimated quickly. Like the running and getting used to running every single day, and just like the constant movement and the constant cardio. But I settled in. I played football my whole life. Like I was a grinder, so like it was easy.
But this is an 11-week hell week. If you've played football and you got 1 week during summer before the fall game, they buckle down. This is 11 weeks of that. Yeah. But once, like you said, was it week 6 or 8 where you really started to get your groove?
It's probably about 3.
Oh, that's glorious.
Yeah, it was probably about 3 weeks, honestly. The mental was tough at first, just like the reality of like, do I fit here? Is this the right decision? Right? Did I make the right choices? And then like the games, right? Like put your shoes on, take your shoes off, put your shoes on, take your shoes off, take your pants off, put your shoes on, take your pedicard. Like that stuff like drove me nuts.
One of my favorites was one fitted sheet.
Yeah.
The sheet that's on the bottom of the entire bed that racks. Let me see one fitted sheet. You got to stand out in front of your rack, holding a fitted sheet over your head, and remake the bed.
Yep. Yeah, absolutely. Or sweeping the deck like in a duck walk position with like a little
with
brush.
the deck towels.
Yeah.
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 So you graduate. You were a guide or a squad leader?
I was a squad leader on and off. I didn't graduate as a squad leader, though.
But you meritoriously promoted.
Yeah. Yep. I got meritorious PFC.
Then you go off to school.
SOI.
SOI, and that was in Lejeune?
Geiger.
In Geiger. Okay, Camp Geiger.
Yeah,
okay.
Next to Lejeune.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, and how'd that go?
Great. Yeah. By that time, like I was into the Marine Corps. Like I went home and I was like folding my sheets after boot camp and like sleeping in detention. Like I was completely brainwashed.
Your parents freak out?
They built. They were confused.
Yeah.
I came home a robot.
Yeah.
But I fit in, man. Like I was like the perfect candidate. I fit right into the mold and I loved it. It was easy. So then I go to SOI and I was pumped, man, because now like we're months out from going to war.
And you're now excited about this.
Excited. Like the drill instructors and like I wanted it anyways prior. Now I went through boot camp, I graduated. Now I'm a Marine. Like I'm gonna get to go to war. And this is so I hit SOI in I think it was September. I think it was early September. And then we had a month of forming there. So we had security forces there.
Oh wow.
Because we joined up a little late. There was a big class, and so we had to wait for a month for the next class to pick up. So they actually just make you do security, camp guard, which kind of sucked. We were excited. We wanted to get training. We wanted to get to a unit. Some of our friends went to a unit, guys that we knew, and went to SOI, and we're stuck in this like security forces gig for about a month. So we did that. I did it with my one friend that we joined from our area from Pennsylvania together, and after that, like we got picked up and we were pumped. Like by the time we got picked up, we were like excited to go, And the first couple weeks of that school is just infantry. It's basic infantry.
Yeah.
So they just like they just fill you up with knowledge, right? Like, and it's just absorb, memorize, take a test, data dump.
Boring.
Right? Yeah.
Boring.
Yep. And so like we just have to learn all these like basic knowledge tests. You take all these tests and then you go to the field and you spend some time in the field. Now we get to the field and like we're hiking, we're shooting rockets, we're shooting machine guns, like we're doing movements, we're sleeping out in the field. Like it was miserable. I'll tell you, the first day that we went out and did that, it rained. So we stepped out for our hike. It started raining. They don't teach you how to waterproof your gear until after all of your gear gets wet. It's like a little...
It's very Marine-y.
Yes.
It's a very Marine thing to do.
Yes,
to
absolutely.
not show you how to put your poncho or your tent half over your gear.
Yep.
Yeah.
So we hike out, and there's this like evolution where you shoot all of the weapons, all the basic infantry weapons. You have to qualify with them. So we hike out.
The 50, the saw. What all did you train on?
203, AT4, M4, saw, 240.
Oh, wow.
I don't think we did the 50 or the mark. That was when we got into machine gunner school. But so you do all that, right? But so we hike out and we're carrying these packs, and then we put all of our packs. It's kind of a funny moment. So they tell us to put all of our packs in this area, right? Well, it's a low-lying area, and we cover them with ponchos, right? We did the right move and covered them in ponchos, and then we went and shot all day long in the freezing cold, in the rain. It was October now in Camp Lejeune, so it gets cold.
Yeah.
So we're shooting all day, everybody's freezing, and then we go get our gear. Well, our gear now was in a pond. So yes, there was a tarp over it, but there was a pond that had formed around all of our gear. So now at night, first field up in the field, we have to pick up these 200-pound packs.
Because they're waterlogged, so now they went from 100 to 200.
Right, and we're carrying these to some unknown distance, some unknown location. We're all exhausted and tired and broke off, and then we got to set up tents.
Wet tents.
Wet tents with wet clothes. We had no sleeping bags. All of our sleeping bags were soaked. Between me and my partner that we shared a tent together, we had one ISO, we had 2 ISO mats, we had 2 bivy sacks, so like the waterproof sacks, and we had one like the wubby.
Yeah.
The little blanket, the poncho liner.
Yeah.
Right. So we had one of those that was dry. None of our clothes, everything else was soaked, and it's freezing cold in October. So you got to make one choice, right? The only way to stay alive at that point is button your bags together.
Yep.
And use body heat. So, so we slept back to back with one poncho liner with these 2 things buttoned together, like honestly in fear for our life. Like we were probably actually facing hypothermia at that point.
Again, questioning your decisions.
Right, 100%.
Yeah.
But it was, at this time, it was different, and it was fun, and it was real. We're training for war now. Like, we are in the School of Infantry.
So you get assigned to a unit.
Yep.
And then the call comes.
Yeah. Well, so I had to go through the rest of SOI, so I got selected to be a machine gunner. So only the top, like that actually pass all the tests, gets selected for a specialty out of SOI. The rest just remain 0311s.
I did not know that. I thought you had that MOS.
Nope. So there's a split. So after 3 weeks, the first 3 weeks declares like where you stand in the class, and then the top of the class get to select specialty MOSs if they want. So there's mortars, machine guns, rockets, and demo. So I selected from the get-go, I always wanted to be a machine gunner, so now I got to be a machine gunner because I scored very high on all the tests, did very well, so now I got to be a machine gunner. I was actually honor grad out of like machine gun school out of SOI, so like.
So you didn't just lock in, you're feeling, and this is a lot of your story, is you're feeling your purpose right there.
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, everything made sense. You know, on the weekends, I would get a hotel room while others were out drinking. I would drink a little bit, but I would sit there and study the machine gun Bible. Like, I locked on. I wanted to know everything. I practiced longer. I was pushing myself harder. Like, I wanted to know every single thing. I wanted to be the best that I possibly could be because there's a war pending.
Yeah.
And the only thing I could think about is, like, other people's lives are on my hands, right? Like, if I don't know my job well, if I don't know how to do this well, it's going to cost others their lives. And that was just like that sense of service and like purpose that was just like, it was raised up in me, you know, and it was just being refined at this point and harnessed into, you know, to try to master my job.
This is the loyalty and purpose and ethics and kind of things that you picked up from your parents, from your dad,
Yeah, absolutely.
who he is. That's a really important thing to take in through life that a lot of people don't have the opportunity. There's so much missing of that in this country right now.
Yeah.
There's a big missing dad problem. There's a lot of dads that are just busy. And there's a lot of dads that don't have that inherent quality
Yeah.
that can pass along, even if they're not giving to you in words, they're showing you and being that example.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, my dad has always like been the guy, and like I'm very fortunate. My parents are still married, and I have both of my parents. Like grew up with them and my older brother, and like to watch him just like when he does something, he does it as best as he can. You know, like he really dives in and tries to learn anything, and like that was just inherently brought up in me. You know, so now I'm in machine gun school, and like I'm thinking that this is going to cost people's lives if I don't do this well. So like I had no option, right, to lock on. Kind of fun fact is, back in school, so through school I was kind of held to be like when I was younger, I was actually put in like the special classes, like the easier classes. I was made to believe that like I couldn't read and I couldn't like adapt knowledge well. And it was kind of crazy. He was just not interested in me. Nothing was interesting to me. Like nobody actually made the attempt to like make sure I was interested in something. You know, the school, it was a bigger school system, and I was the lower percentage, right? And I was the problem maker a little bit because I didn't like just do everything easy.
Yeah.
So instead of like taking time to see how I could learn, they just pushed me aside. And so why wouldn't I skate by? You know, as a kid, like they gave me an easier option. So all of those things that I had to do at that point, I didn't even have to show up.
Yeah.
I could phone them in.
But mentally, you're so far ahead of it, you're just not interested.
Right. Completely disinterested. And so like literally the whole time through school, like I went through these like phases where like I didn't have to learn. I didn't have to do anything because I was not that. Like my capacity for learning and which I find later in reading and absorbing knowledge and learning is so much greater than I was held to, you know? And so now I'm in this school and I have to learn and I have to write and I have to read and I have to like, I memorized the machine gun Bible. I could tell you like verbatim sentences and where it came from and where it ties to. And like later in my career, I actually like rewrote some of the doctrine in the machine gun Bible because like I just dove fully in. You know,
That is phenomenal. Do you know if it lives on today?
Yeah, I mean it was updated. So like when I was later in my career, I was at IOC, and that's the headquarters of the Marine Corps. So I was actually able to affect change in the Marine Corps at that point.
Oh, that is awesome.
Yeah. But,
So honor grad out of SOI.
Yep.
Get your machine gun.
Yep.
You're good to go.
Yep.
You go off to a unit. You're with 3-4, 3-5.
No, so my first unit was 1st Battalion, 8th Marines.
Oh.
Yeah. So if you know history at all, so in 2005, in November, the worst house-to-house battle happened since Way City. It was Fallujah. So 1st Battalion, 8th Marines was considered the tip of the spear in the middle of the city of Fallujah. So that was November. I got to the fleet in December of 2005. So my senior Marines were directly off of that deployment. A lot of them were on leave from deployment when I got there. So there's guys walking around this base, like I have this pending war and like this deployment that might be coming and all of this. And there's guys walking around with bullet holes and like wounds and injuries from this. And there's guys with bad PTSD and stuff around the base. And like they knew the cost of war and what it took to be there. So our training was not easy.
It reminds me of the guys in and around the Vietnam era, where they were going back to be drill instructors and school instructors, and they were hard, and they knew that you were going to be in the thick of it.
Yeah.
So you wanted to deploy, you wanted to get in the fight, you were ready mentally, physically. So where did the 1A go from there?
Yeah, so 1st Battalion, 8th Marines, I got in weapons company, which was awesome because I was a machine gunner. I didn't want to be a line company machine gunner. The first couple months were hard, right? There was a lot of good training, I'll say. Lots of good training. My senior Marines were actually like, they were awesome, man. They loved us, they cared about us, they know what it took to be good at what we did. And as soon as I showed it physically and mentally and like, man, I just kept dialing in my data. So like within months of being in the fleet, there wasn't anybody that could ask me a question that I didn't know, and that wasn't just machine guns. It was mortars and it was rockets and everything, because we had all that in our platoon. So I had to master it all, you know. So I just dove into the books and I studied and studied and studied. So we ended up getting slotted for deployment. So in January, so I got there in December, January, they told us in 6 months we were going on the 2-4 Mu.
Okay.
So not what I wanted.
No.
Right? Right.
So where was the Mu headed? Now, for the viewers, the various services and the folks that watch this, I always like to try to fill in the blanks with some acronyms, and that was a Marine Expeditionary Unit, which was a new formation and a new way of deploying various aspects to be a high-speed attachment.
QRF.
The Quick Reaction Forces.
Correct.
So you're going to be with the 2-4 Mu. So where are you guys headed?
So we are the first Mu to actually do a float like a Mu since the beginning of Iraq. Because what they would do, anybody that was like slotted for a Mu, they'd get on the boat and they would drive them to Iraq or Afghanistan, and they get off. That was the Mu.
Thanks.
Right? It was just a longer boat ride.
Yeah.
So we were the first one that was actually going to go to France and Italy and Cyprus, and we were going to do a training mission in Jordan, and then go to Africa and UAE, and then we were actually supposed to do all of that and then go and support 2-8 in their push through Ramadi. So we were going to go as an asset to support them, because it was a rough time in Ramadi at that time. If you look at 2006 in Ramadi, that's like when all the hardest fighting was going there. So we were supposed to go support them. So we get on the boat, lots of training. When you train on the boat, you basically ride on it for a long time, right? And then we get off a little bit. Marines don't really serve a lot of a purpose on a boat. And when you get a bunch of Marines in a confined area and you don't have anything to do, it's probably the worst thing you can do.
I know what they do.
Yeah. So the leadership has to find creative things for us to do. So we, I'm like 19 years old, first deployment. And we float over, so I actually got to go to Toulon, France, and they let us off the boat, and we got to hang out and have a good time in Toulon, France, and went cliff diving and drank a lot of alcohol, because that's what Marines do. And then we floated to Civitavecchia, Italy, which is just north of Rome. Got to go see Rome. That was cool. Colosseum, all of that. Got on the boat, and then we were floating over to our training op in Jordan. So this is the first training op that we were going to do since it was like years and years and years, because we had like broke some treaty or something with Jordan years ago with something that we did. So this was the first time we were doing combined ops. So it was like a big deal. The news was like reporting it and stuff. So we get there and we do this training op. Well, Jordan, fun fact, is covered in moon dust, is what we like to call it.
I did not know this.
So there's like 8 inches of dust everywhere you go. It is an insane environment. Like this doesn't have a lot to do with the story, but like an insane environment. Like I've never seen anything like
Got to be great for the weapons.
it's, I mean, terrible for everything.
Terrible for everything.
You lose vehicles in moments because as soon as it drives, they create these like crazy dust clouds everywhere they go.
Wow.
So fun fact about Jordan, stay out of that place. But so we're there and we're supposed to be there for 3 weeks and we had about a week left and they called us and they said, hey, get back to boat. And we're like, what the heck's going on? And they're like, no, everybody report the boat. We're loading up. We're leaving early. And they won't tell us what's happening. So we have to drive all our vehicles back because we're vehicle mounted to the boat. We had to clean all this moon dust off of us because they don't allow you on the boat when you are covered in dirt. Like,
Yeah.
So we had to clean all of our trucks really quickly and clean ourselves. We actually just jumped in the, I think it's the Red Sea there. We all jumped in the Red Sea, so they let us back on the boat. So the Navy let us back on, and we were told to go to our berthing and wait because we were going to get briefed. And we're like, oh, wow, like something kicked off, something happened. So we go in this berthing, and we're sitting there, and we turn on the news because we have a little berthing with a little TV where we're all sitting. And it's like a 20 by 20 room in the middle of where we stay. And the news says, 1st Battalion, 8th Marines going back to Lebanon. And we're like, what the heck?
Going back for the first time since the barracks attack in 1983.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, so, 1st Battalion, 8th Marines was in the barracks then when it
Yeah.
got blown up in the Beirut bombing. So 1st Battalion, 8th Marines was on the MEU, and we were going back because at this point, Israel was bombing Lebanon. Lebanon had captured, the Hezbollah has captured, I think, 2 or 3 of their troops. So they lined up all of their tanks and all of their missiles, and they started bombing everything. So they were sending us over there to evacuate 10,000 American citizens that were standing on the shore while the city was evaporating behind them. We actually had the opportunity as we were waiting for this evacuation mission, waiting for like what we were going to do. We loaded all of our weapons. Our platoon was the QRF for the whole MEU because we were stationed on the hovercrafts, the LCACs. And so we loaded up all of our weapons, and we're actually standing on the smoke deck, the only place that like we could really see outside of the boat, and we're watching buildings disappear. And we're like, this is a war zone.
Yeah.
Like, it was a legitimate war zone. And we're sitting there, beautiful sea, like I remember all these jellyfish in the ocean, beautiful clear water, we're smoking cigarettes, and buildings are disappearing. And we're being told that we're going in there to get these people out.
And again, was that another time in your life that you're thinking, okay, I want this really bad, but do I?
No.
Are you questioning? So you're not, now you're ready.
We're locked in. No, at that point, 19 years old, like been floating on a boat, not doing much, like let's go.
Yeah.
Let's go do something. So they ended up actually pulling all of our stuff off the boat. The Secretary of Defense came on our boat, flew onto our boat and said, you are not sending the Marines in there.
That was Condoleezza Rice at the time.
Yeah, do not send the Marines in there. And they were like, why? They're like, well, if one person shoots at them, they all have machine guns and rockets, and like I've seen what they have. This isn't going to go well.
No.
Right? Which is the right call, to be honest.
Yeah.
We were all like, if we were there and somebody put us in imminent danger, we had 50 cals and Mark 19s and rockets. Like, that's how we would respond.
End of story.
Correct.
And had you been given, just before she called it off, had you been given your rules of engagement?
Yep. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, just basically, if you're fired on, directly, actively fired on, you can always defend yourself. So.
Typical.
Yeah.
Typical. Just before you die, fire back and
Correct.
fire back well.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. That's what it was in Iraq as well.
So in that first, so the deployment gets called off. Again, you've been pulled out of the fight. You're a year and a half in,
Yep.
and still haven't had the opportunity. Still haven't been able to do what you feel like your purpose is. And what's the next part of the rotation for you?
Yeah, so came back. We immediately got slotted for another deployment. We were going to Iraq. So we went to Ramadi, Iraq in 2000, and it was like 7 to 8, I think is what it was. And so we go there, Ramadi, Iraq. We built our own base north of Ramadi. There were still some bombs and IEDs. There was a few people in our unit got in some firefights. We supported a couple, but nothing serious, right? This is when we were in the transitional period of Iraq. We were training the police, we were working with them, we were doing presence patrols just to keep it safe. We're basically policing.
Presence patrols has to be the scariest part. When there's a defined enemy and a defined their side, our side, But to be roaming the streets completely surrounded by thousands of people not knowing where the threat is, how did that play in your head?
Yeah, I mean, you're waiting to get shot at, right? Like we're driving around trying to get shot at. Right?
So you can engage.
So you can engage.
Yeah.
And rules of engagement in Iraq those years were you could only engage somebody that was actively engaging you and you have constant contact. So like if they were engaging you and they put their weapon down and went through a building and out another door, you could not re-engage them. They were no longer a threat, right? So like it was police rules kind of.
Yeah.
You know, so it was a tough time. It was actually scary. You know, like we didn't want to get shot at because our ability to defend ourselves was lower. You know, and so this is the drawdown. So we did a lot of training and a lot of presence controls, a lot of looking for IEDs because they were still a big threat because they don't shoot at you; they just blow up. You know.
Yeah.
So did that one, and it wasn't what we were looking for. You know, like I in my mind signed up to go to war. War for me was like actually fighting with my weapon, engagements, and I didn't get it. So came back, immediately started for another deployment. So then we go back to Iraq again in like 2009. Well, that is like after the Great Awakening. We weren't really allowed to do much, but it was kind of cool. Our squad actually got selected. We were doing QRF missions around the base. We were one of the only bases, or one of the only operating forces that was doing anything. And then we were actually doing humanitarian stuff. So like that was actually a fruitful time. Like we got to spend time with the tribes members, and like we were bringing them money and helping them build infrastructure and build roadways and different things that we had destroyed.
Yeah. So you're getting some QRF action. You're going around and collecting up some bad guys and defending the area. No, still nothing.
Zero in 2009. 2009 was the only thing that the things that we were doing that was productive in 2009 was humanitarian.
Hearts and minds.
Yep.
So you got to be getting, so 2009, we're at the end of the first enlistment.
So I actually re-enlisted my first time in Iraq.
Okay.
Yeah, so they allowed us, at that time, they allowed you to re-enlist early, and they gave you a big signing bonus because we were in the middle of the war.
Yeah.
You know, this was 2006. So that was in the upscaling of the Marine Corps. You know, we were going up to, I think they were trying to get to 220,000 at that time. So anybody that would stay in, they would pay you a bunch of money to stay in. If you're in country, it's tax-free. So me and all my buddies, we were still like, I think we were a year out from being able to re-enlist, and they let us all re-enlist tax-free over there. And we were like, yeah, like let's do 5 more deployments. This is great.
Yeah, nothing's bad. We'll take the money.
Yeah, deploying's easy.
Yeah.
You know, deploying's easy. You go work. Nobody messes with you. There's none of like the dumb stuff of the military. Like you're there to work. You have a mission. You have a purpose. It's tiring. It's exhausting. But like you're hanging out with your boys.
Yeah.
Like you're living like a Spartan. You're in the dirt. You're dirty. You're cleaning your weapons. You're working out, and like that's what you're doing. It's an easy life. It's simple. Bills, cell phones, people, women. You don't have to worry about any of that. It's off the table. I work and I hang out with my dudes and I lift. You know, like it's great.
It's man stuff.
It's easy. Spartan society. You know, and that was fun. You know, and I joined the Marine Corps to do that. Like that's what I loved. I loved deploying. Even on the boat, same thing. We just hung out, lifted weights, did some dumb stuff, but like you hung out with the boys. It was a simple life.
Just a better gym on the boat than the one you had to manufacture. Did you have gear?
No, we built a really nice one.
Did you really?
Yeah, we stole it from the other base.
Okay, that's very Marine.
One piece at a time.
Yeah, that's some Marine stuff right there.
Yeah, like the Johnny Cash song, like one piece at a time.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. We built our.
So I had seen some over the years where it was literally axles with hubcaps on either side.
Yeah,
so
that's how we started.
You started there and you went to legit weights and.
Yeah. We would go to the main base and we would go on these missions to the main base because we built our own fob like 30 clicks from the main base.
Yeah.
So we'd have to go back weekly for supply runs and food and stuff. So our lieutenant would we would have supply runs and people would be assigned missions to acquire gear. You know, because we tactically acquire in the Marine Corps. We don't steal.
No, tactically acquire. So you get toilet paper. You two get a curl bar.
Yes.
And each of you grab a 25 and put it in your cami pockets.
Correct. Yeah,
Roger
absolutely.
that.
There was a time where I walked out with a barbell on my back with 245s, and I was walking out of the gym because they have like a guy standing there.
Yeah.
He's like, "What are you doing?" I was like, "I'm going outside to do lunges."
It never came
Do you have
back.
a problem with it? I just threw it in the back of my truck. Yeah. So we built a really nice gym. It was called JSS Eagle Base, was our like base that we built, and we built a really cool gym because our lieutenant was into it and our gunny was into it. So we built everybody was strong. I mean, we had like a 300-pound club.
Okay, I was going to ask, what were you? So boot camp going in at 220, you probably came in about got out about 205.
185.
185 from 212. Gracious. Where were you at this point? Back up in the 200s?
About 215.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But
yeah. On that deployment,
solid.
strong.
Yeah.
Strong, like repping 315, like deadlifting tons of weight, like squatting 405, my butt's on like to my heel, like that's all we had to do.
So, sticking with the theme of fit to serve, it was a lot of who you were as a kid, as an athlete, as a football player, and the fact that you got to do this kind of for a living.
Yeah,
That had to be cool.
It was awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, like honestly, the military is such an easy job. Like if you're an athlete, you grow up, you like to work, you like to like put your nose down and like grind and hang out with dudes, like hang out with your boys. Like it's an awesome thing. It's a Spartan society, you know. So it did carry me like that. That is something that like through my whole life, I grew a passion when I was young. Fun fact is my grandfather was actually a Korean Marine.
Oh, wow.
And I didn't really even know it until after I enlisted. And he never really talked about what he did, but he was an engineer who was actually from a pioneer platoon in Korea. So they would go and clear the entryways before the boats would come on the shore. And so like I didn't even know that until enlisting. But he got out of the Marine Corps and started lifting weights, and he was an old school power lifter. So I saw him always, that's something that he always made me do when I would go to his house. You weren't allowed in his gym unless you could pick up this bar, okay? And the bar was 2 manhole covers welded on a steel bar, right? So like I'm 5 years old, and he'd be like, "You want to come in the gym? Pick it up." Couldn't pick it up. He'd be like, "Get out, sissy," And that's how like that reflected on me my whole life. It still does. Like, that is something in me that like. He said, "Get out, start lifting weights, and keep lifting weights. Never stop." Because he lifted weights 5 days a week until he died.
That is goals, right?
Yep, absolutely.
Serious goals.
Yep, yeah, absolutely. And he was on his 75th birthday. I remember this. Go over his house. I bought him bullets for his AK. He just bought an AK. He was excited about it. He said, "Hey, would you know what I did today?" And I was like, I have no idea, Pap. Like, what'd you do today? He goes, 75-pound dumbbell flies. Can you?
At 75?
At 75 years old. He said, "Can you do that?" And I said, I don't think so. He's like, "Want to go try it?" And I was like, "No, I'm good."
But you avoided a pec tear that day, 100%, by the way.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's just like he was a barrel-chested, just like old-school power lifter. He would weld buckets together and fill them with steel.
Crazy forearms.
Right. He'd shake your arm off, but just a kind-hearted guy, but like rough John Wayne on the outside.
Yeah.
But that is a part of my personality, like what pushes me, that grinding, that work ethic. It shows in my dad, and it showed through me, and the fitness is something that I just carry. I'm like, man, no matter what else fails in my life, like that keeps me centered. That keeps me grounded. That's my constant forever. It has been, no matter what injury I faced.
That's phenomenal. So, and that keeps your head on. People don't realize quite often, non-military, non-workout people don't realize that mental physical connection, the mind pushing the body pushing the mind, and both of them needing each other to keep pushing out of the darkest of times.
Yeah, absolutely. Something to hold on to.
So deployment, and still haven't seen the fun and games you were looking forward to.
So, sitting in Iraq, we actually got pushed to Al Asad because our base we were at Takadum, and then we got pushed to Al Asad because there was literally like nothing to do. Now we're just driving around the desert looking at wadis. So we're there, and the monitor. So you remember the monitor? So the Marine Corps monitor is a guy that has all of the control of the Marine Corps, right? He can place you anywhere at the stroke of a pen. So our monitor came onto base, the infantry monitor, to Al-Assad in Iraq. And he's this big, yoked, bald guy. And I'm like, well, I got to go see the monitor. So at this point, 3 deployments, what should I do? What should I be doing after 3 deployments?
You should be getting out and going home.
Right. Or like go into SOI or rotate out to the drill
You should be doing
field.
one of your B billets where you're a SOI instructor, a drill instructor, embassy guard, something that will foster the next portion of your career or enrich future Marines with your expertise.
Yeah, absolutely. I didn't want to do that. so they cut me orders to SOI, involuntary orders. They just gave them to me. And so my first sergeant said, go see the monitor, you got orders. And I was like, I don't want to do that. I want to deploy. Like, I'm looking for a fight. Like, I'm here to fight. I don't want to do that bullshit. It's not what I joined the Marine Corps for. So I go see the monitor, and he's like, yeah, you got orders. And me and my buddy Kennel, who we did our first 3 deployments together, we were in the same platoon, we went and sat and saw him together. And he goes, well, you got orders. What do you want? And I was like, I want to deploy. And he's like, okay. He's like, what do you want to do? And I was like, I want to go to Afghanistan, Gunny. Like, I haven't been to Afghanistan. Is there still fighting? Like, who's going to the next hot zone? And he goes, I got a place for you. He's like, this unit is getting ready in 7 months. After you get back, they are going to Seng in Afghanistan. It's the last Wild West of Afghanistan. Like, this is a fight. He's like, I'm building a unit for this fight. And I was like, sign us up, let's go. I was like, that's what I want. So we like eagerly took these orders. I could have went anywhere. They offered me Hawaii or whatever. I could have went to SOI, whatever it was. And I said, no, like let's go to Afghanistan. That sounds like fun. And so that day I signed the papers, right, to go to Afghanistan. That was with 3-5 is who the papers were with.
Yeah.
And it was going to be, we were transitioning, so I would get back from deployment. 90 days later was the earliest I could do. I would transition to California and start with training with 3-5.
So you get out there, you're I've been there so many times. You're in San Diego, I'm being very vague. Carlsbad, you're out there with the guys.
Yep.
You're training and you're waiting to go. And something happens.
Yeah. So I get there, you get 30 days of transition, which is cool. So we got there very quick. I think we drove there in 5 days, me and my buddy. Got there in 5 days, and then we had another like 25 days to hang out before we had to check in, and we're in Southern California. So like we had to find a house, like somewhere to stay, all of those things, but like, let's hang out. You know, it's beautiful.
Yeah.
Never been there.
Private beaches on Pendleton that only the Marines and families can go to.
Right.
Beautiful.
Yeah, I mean, so we took advantage of that.
Yeah.
So we hung out and waited until our check-in date. And then when our check-in date arrived, me and my buddy, we had kind of struck a deal that if we did sniper training in Lejeune with the sniper platoon, because we were friends with them, because we'd been in the same unit for 4 years at this point, that when we would transition, we could go right into their platoon and then go to sniper school eventually.
Yeah.
For this deployment, because we were looking for something new to do. It was kind of boring. I've been doing the same thing for 5 years.
Yeah.
Right. So did all the training, did the pre-sniper. It was great. It was fun. Did the stalking, like shot, like killed it. Get out there, and I was expecting to be transitioned right into the sniper platoon. Well, they weren't expecting us. Some wires got crossed. They didn't get called, whatever the means was. So when we got there, I got put in a line platoon, and then my friend got put into a weapons platoon. He was pumped because he wanted to be a weapons platoon squad leader, and I wasn't there, so he'd be the squad leader. I was always the squad leader above him. And I got put in a line company, and I was like, what the heck? Well, we get to this unit, man, and it's like the, what was that movie with like?
Heartbreak Ridge.
No. What's the movie with like all like the seasoned fighters that they get together?
Like the Expendables.
The Expendables.
Okay. So this is all the best of the best in this one unit.
Listen, we get to this unit, and so a normal infantry platoon might have 1 sergeant or 2 sergeants, and then like a couple corporals, and then everybody else is like lance corporals and new guys. Every platoon had like 4 to 6 sergeants. And like stacked with corporals. Everybody had Saudi camis on, so like all their camis were you're looking around and like everybody's Saudi, longer hair, like sergeants, corporals, NCOs, and I was like, what is this? Like, what is this place I got to, you know? And I'm looking around. Then I see him. Big, giant, jack, bald guy.
The monitor.
The monitor. So Gunny Carlisle had built this unit to go to Afghanistan because it was a real fight. The unit 37 was there. They couldn't leave the wire because they didn't have enough ammunition to make it out. Like, the Brits were there before them, then 37 were there. You couldn't make it out of the wire. That's how bad the fighting was. This was an enemy proving ground for them. They would go to Syria, they would learn tactics and techniques, and they would send them to Sangin to prove their tactics.
This is
and techniques.
Taliban, ISIS, who all was in this fight?
They're drug dealers.
Yeah.
You know, the reality of it, they're not Taliban, they're drug dealers.
Yeah, poppy lords.
Yep, absolutely. Yeah. That's all they care about. The Taliban were like, you know, they cared about being Muslims. Like,
but you care about your dope enough to take on a Marine forward operating base.
Right. Yep.
That's, hey, got to hand it to them.
Yep, they were like attacking the bases.
Yeah.
Not like just attacking patrols, they were actually attacking bases at this time. Units were running out of water and food because you couldn't even get the supplies to them. So that's where we were going, and we were going there not to sit there. We were going there to clear it.
Yeah.
So that was the mission that he was building this for. So it made sense. You know, get the best guys possible with experience in one place, let them go. You know, so that's what this deployment was. So I get there, I see this, and I didn't get picked to the sniper platoon. And I call it. I go to the platoon sergeant. I'm like, "What happened? Like, what? We were supposed to be drawn over," and he goes, "Well, you know, it's a mix-up. Sorry, you know, but we have an indoc on Friday." And I said, "Man, I've been off for 30 days. I haven't been training for an indoc."
So you've got to do, was it a PFT? What else do you have to do for the indoc?
I mean, it's whatever they want to make of it.
Yeah.
Right. So each platoon kind of comes up with their own standards, and so the indoc, that one started out with typically, you know, like 3 a.m. gear inspection, then a PFT, and then you pack up all your gear that just got inspected, and then you got to run to somewhere that's being led by somebody without a pack, and you have full gear.
Yeah.
And then you got to run somewhere else, and then land nav, and then just miserable, right? And they push you until there's the correct number that they want to keep.
Wow.
Right. So there's no actual end date.
So success by attrition.
Correct. Yep. And that's all they try to do there. He's like, as long as you get through it, you'll be fine. You're a sergeant. You'll be all right. I was like, dude, I've been off for 30 days. He's like, yeah, it's all right. So I'd never really ran the mountains in California. When I was on leave there, when we were in our transition, we would go for jogs near the beach. It's beautiful, right? I wasn't jogging on washes and all of that and not used to it, carrying weight. I was still really fit. You know, I finished the PFT really easy, pretty high up because I was in good shape. Got to this top of this first mountain pretty easily. A lot of people, we had lost probably half of the class at that point already. And we circle up, and then we start heading down these washes. And it's dark, can't see, I'm not used to it. And I step in a wash. And when I step in this wash, my knee hyperextended. And with the weight of the ruck in this wash, I just hyperextended. I felt like immense pain and then nothing. And then I had zero control over my right knee. If I would lock it out or I would bend it too far, it would pop and click and I would like lose stability in it. So I didn't want to be a sissy, right? So
Grandpa, we're back to PAP.
Right, it always results back to that, right? So I run to the bottom of the mountain that I was on, and I was like, maybe it'll feel better. And then
I'll just run on it with 60, 80 pounds on my back. It'll fix it.
Correct.
Yeah.
And then I ran to the top of the next mountain because you can't quit at the bottom of a hill. Like, that's loser stuff.
Yeah.
So I ran to the top of the next hill where the safety vehicle was, and I got up there, and the staff sergeant was there, and I said, hey, man, I'm injured. I'm out. And he's like, yeah, right. And I was like, no, dude, like, my knee's gone. Like, I knew it. It felt like I had, like, marbles in it. You know,
Yeah.
It's like the only way I could describe it. So I had to get in the safety vehicle, which was like a huge ego kill. And I had injured my knee a few times prior to that, like jumping off of stuff, like just doing things, but never catastrophic like that.
Yeah.
And so got in the safety vehicle and I was like, man. And I knew then that I probably wasn't going to deploy. And I was like, I can't believe this. I got out here, finally got to the deployment.
You're with the expendables.
Yep.
You're with the best of the best,
Yeah.
which speaks volumes about who you are, being picked by the gunny to do this task.
Yeah.
And this is a crusher.
Yeah.
Now it got worse.
And
The crush got worse.
yeah. So I go to the ER the next day, and they had to, like, 'cause, you know, military medicine, you have to go to the ER and you have to go see this person. So I go to the ER, and the guy grabs my lower knee and my upper knee and does like the ACL LCL test, and like you could just move it freely. He goes, he's like, I can't tell you this. He's like, I'm not like an orthopedic, but he's like, you don't have an ACL, and you're probably missing other ones too. And he's like, your meniscus are probably gone. I mean, my knee was gigantic, ballooned. I was still walking on it, but so MRI, ACL, LCL, both meniscus gone, PCL stretched, like everything you could do to a catastrophic injury. Immediately put you to a med separation for an injury like that.
Yeah.
Forced me into getting a surgery. Told me there's no way I could deploy. So I spent the next couple months working out, because they said the better shape I'm in before,
Better recovery.
faster, better chance that I may be able to run again at some point in my life. And I was just trying to deploy. I was like, how do I get on this deployment? I was fighting to try to get on this deployment, trying to figure out ways to do it. And like once you get that
You're not getting a waiver to get through this med with a blown knee to go out with you guys. So your guys go.
Yep. And I was running and rucking and trying to do all this stuff. My surgery date got pushed back because, you know, it takes a long time to do that sometimes. And now surgery date gets pushed back, and it happens to be the day that I had my surgery. I didn't even know this, like it was going to happen. The day I had my surgery and was coming out of it was the day that my unit finally hit Sangin. Because when you deploy, it takes like a couple weeks to actually get in, right? Like there's transitional periods to Germany and to here and there and Leatherneck and Learn, and they slowly phase people in. First operational day was that day. And wake up from surgery. It was a 6-hour surgery. It was a disaster. I mean, I had a Frankenstein knee because of it. And another sergeant that was injured, he had a ankle that was shot, comes in and he goes, hey, how you doing? Like, you all right? And I'm like, I mean, I want to get the hell out of this hospital. You know, that's all I cared about. I want to get on the recovery, on the mend. And he goes, hey, we lost one of your Marines today. And I was like, huh? And he's like, yeah, it was the first day of patrol. He's the first one. You know, Lance Corporal Sparks got hit. And he was one of the guys in the platoon that I was actually over and was helping. While I was still injured, I was still helping these guys to train and spend time and relationship with them. Because I could just give back. That was the only thing I could possibly do at this point. So he was the first casualty, the first KIA of that deployment. And it was the day I got my knee surgery.
And they're in the fight. And you're in Diego at what, Balboa Island or 42nd Street? Somewhere down in there.
Yeah, San Diego.
Yeah, San Diego.
Yeah.
The point was, you're not there with your guys. So, and it didn't get much better. That was a brutal deployment for that unit.
Yeah, I mean, they had like 20 KIAs, like over 100 amputees, like 250 wounded, like, and those numbers are, you know, those aren't perfect. But
Yeah, it's bad enough.
You can Google it.
Yeah.
But so that was 3-5, and my boy was over there, like my friend.
Kennel.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Who I've done 4 deployments with, or 3 deployments with. He's over there in the fight. And I'm stuck home Bayside. So once I was able to walk, they said 45 days, no weight bearing. But I was doing crunches and push-ups and anything I could do, pull-ups. I wanted to get back. I was like, maybe I can get over there as a combat replacement. Because it's just casualty after casualty after casualty after amputee after KIA after KIA. Like every day there's multiple reports coming through. And I'm like, I have to get over there. I have to help these guys. This is what I'm for.
Yeah.
So I took as many supplements as I could to get healthy as fast as possible. And within 90 days, I was ruck running again.
Wow.
It hurt.
Wow.
But I didn't care. I figured if I could ruck run and I could run a PFT, they'd let me deploy. Well, that wasn't true. So the only way that I could help these guys that I could see fit, that like I could still serve somehow, some capacity, is doing funerals. So when these guys would come home and go to their families, a lot of the guys that don't go on deployment were intentionally slacking out of going on deployment. Where like, I just wanted to go, and so I signed up to do these funerals, as many as I could. And I had a big cast on my leg or like a big brace on my leg, immobilizer, the first one I did. I shouldn't have been walking, but I just took some painkillers.
Yeah.
They gave them to me, and like, I'm not gonna not do it, And I actually presented a hog's tooth from one of the snipers we lost to a 2-year-old boy, to his son. So over that time, I did like 6 funerals, meeting parents, meeting dads, meeting wives of these dudes that were doing what I felt I should be doing, and I figured the only thing that I could do is possibly serve their families.
Yeah.
But it was burning a hole in me. I was drinking heavily.
Literally burning a hole.
Yeah, bad. Like, it's the only way I could go to sleep. As soon as I would leave the funerals, I would just start boozing every single day, because I couldn't deal with it.
Yeah.
I had survivor's guilt. I had like this depression. I had this like, I should be there.
How long did that, after you got out, I'm going to jump forward just a little, how much did that kind of survivor's guilt and those issues from that period live with you after you got out?
That, I got rid of it
Okay.
because I adapted and overcame. So they wouldn't let me deploy. That unit was starting to transition back. So I cut orders to another unit. And when I cut orders to another unit, back then we had paper folders for all of our medical records. And so I knew that if I cut orders, I could go TAD to this like training unit, because it was like arbitrary, just like some training thing. They would give me my record. So Sergeant Fry, medical's getting medically boarded and stuff, took his medical record and drove to the other side of base. And when I showed on the other side of base, I was healthy.
Where'd the records go, Jarek?
Yeah, I don't know. I was healthy.
There were no records for your injury and all the recovery?
Yep.
Wow, that is a coincidence. That is
Yeah.
phenomenal that
Yeah.
the Marine Corps looked after you like that.
Showed up very healthy.
That is great. Good job.
Yep. So they needed me.
So that you were ready now to go over there and get a little piece of the action.
Yeah, absolutely. So I spent some time training with this TAD unit that like ended up collapsing because of stuff in Yemen, and like we were supposed to do a training op. And then 1st Battalion, 5th Marines replaces 3-5. So when 1st Battalion, it's our sister unit, our brother unit, they replace 3-5 in the same areas, and I see these casualty reports coming through. And in this one period, because I still had like the email that would get them, I saw 9 casualties in 3 days, 3 of which were sergeants. There was a lieutenant or a staff sergeant and a captain. And it was all marked at the same base, this tiny little base.
Yeah.
Like, base only holds 30 people.
And they had 9 KIAs in 3 days.
Not KIs,
Well,
casualties.
casualties,
Yeah,
okay.
there was, I believe that in that 3-day period, there was 2 KIs. But all of their sergeants got hit.
Wow.
And so I'm sitting there, sergeant, healthy as could be.
Sea bag packed, let's rock out.
And so I go to a sergeant major who I'd met in a funeral, who was a regimental sergeant major, and go knock on his door, which I shouldn't do as a sergeant. But he told me if I ever needed anything that I was a good Marine to come to him. So I go knock on his door, and he asked me, he's like, you know what happened, huh? I was like, absolutely. And he goes, are all your affairs in order? And I said, yes, Sergeant Major. He goes, all right, you're ready to go? I said, yes, Sergeant Major. He goes, you're healthy? And I was like, as an ox, Sergeant Major. And he's like, all right, let's go. So on that was a Monday. On Friday, I deployed. And within 1 week from that Friday, I was in Sangin on my first patrol.
And they were successful patrols.
Yes.
There was a nice sized capture at one point with some bad guys.
Yeah, absolutely. I got a Navy Commendation Medal, actually, for some actions. And we actually got to capture like 18 guys, which doesn't happen. And every single one of them actually had gunshot residue on them, because every day they would shoot at the base south of us. Every single day, same time, they would attack the base south of us. And they could never do anything about it. Well, the way we took our patrol, I went to an area that we didn't normally go to, and I pushed through like a crappy area that like was hard to go through, and then we found a bunch of motorcycles staged, waiting. with a Firewatch guy who wasn't paying good attention. So we forced him to stay there, and we hid in these brush until all of his buddies came back, and they were all carrying shovels, but they weren't dirty. And right after the gunfire stopped, this, squad of military-age males walk up to their hidden motorcycles with a Firewatch. And so we captured all of them, and we took them all back to base, because they said they were digging a canal. They weren't wet. They weren't dirty.
Right.
Their shovels didn't even have dirt on them. So we were like, well, we'll take you to base. So they take them back, and every single one of them popped for gunshot residue.
Yeah.
So, and then magically, that base never got shot at again.
Never again. And your base stopped getting shot at, and the attack stopped.
So all of the attacks in our area, as far as gunfire, really, after that, all of our attacks went way down. They stopped messing with our squad completely.
So you finally saw some action. You got a chance to make a huge impact, save a lot of lives. I got to cycle you out, though. So now you're out.
Yep.
And this is one of the hardest part for a lot of veterans, especially ones that wanted action, saw action, didn't see action. But when you're so regimented in your thought and so purposeful in your day-to-day, making that transition to the civilian world is a task.
Yeah, absolutely. So we spend a year getting ready to be a Marine, right? And it's very intentional. There's books written about it. There are psychologists that wrote studies on making it better, and we refine these, like Art of War and On Killing and On Combat. There's generals and stuff that have stars because of these theories they came up with. And we get 2 weeks to get out. We get a 2-week transition to get out of the military. And to be an expert like I was, because I was an expert. The only reason I was getting out is because I had a kid on the way. I had my first kid on the way. And I always made a commitment that if I had a kid, I would get out. So I was making that sacrifice for him. And so I assumed that when I would get out of the military, I would succeed. I'd succeeded at anything I did in the military.
Yeah.
I was an expert. I was very good. I had rewrote doctrine. I'd shaped actually billets in the Marine Corps at that point, at IOC and things that I did. So I just assumed that I would kill it. I get out of the military, and nobody cared. And I didn't understand what that would feel like. So to be an expert, you have to identify. To be a pro athlete, to be a very good businessman, this is who you identify as.
Yeah.
This is your identity. It's now over. So who are you? So now you don't know who you are, you don't have a community, and you don't have a mission or purpose. And guess what? Nobody cares about your service. And you can't understand that gravity, what it does for your ego, what it does for your self-worth. You don't know who you are, and when you're going to job interviews, because I'm applying to be a stock shelfer, manage 4 guys,
Yeah.
4 20-year-olds at a building to make decent money, and they wouldn't hire me because I didn't have a college degree, because I had spent too much time deploying and not enough time studying, so they
Yeah.
would not hire me. I would get a lot of thank you for your service, but no thank you because you don't have a college degree.
So right around that time, thank you for your service started to not sit too well with you.
Oh, it was a swear word.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was probably one of the worst things that you could say to me at that point.
Yeah.
Because it was for me, it was somebody patting themselves on their back. I did a good job. I told this person thank you for their service. There was nothing behind it.
Yeah.
And that transition, I then didn't realize had PTSD, had depression, had an alcohol problem. I wasn't addicted, but I was drowning all of those things
Yeah.
with alcohol. I didn't need alcohol, but I sure liked it so that I didn't have to think about anything. And then I didn't have any worth anymore. I didn't have an identity, and nobody cared. I didn't have a community. My old friends weren't my friends anymore. They all did their stuff.
Yeah.
I did my stuff. My family looked at me differently just because of they knew what I went through, and they understand that there's a barrier that families throw up,
Yeah.
and we throw up. You don't know what I went through, and they said, I don't know what you went through. So now you have two walls that you're trying to break.
And they've got a hurt inside seeing what you're going through.
Yep.
So as a kid, one of my favorite places from about 14 to 17, there was a local barber who had been in Nam.
Yeah.
Had speaking of drinking, had a metal trash can full of beers.
Yep.
And a bunch of magazines for the young boys to read while they're waiting for their haircuts.
Yep.
And, everybody went in there for their high and tight at 15 years old.
Yeah.
And it was a sense of community.
Yeah.
And you had something similar without the beer and the magazines, but it was the barber shop that became a safe place.
Yeah, absolutely. And so I got out. I had a friend that helped me get into a career that at least I could pay my bills, right? I was digging holes for a plumbing company. Hated my life every day. Didn't enjoy anything. I was a dad because I had to. Like, that sense of responsibility, but that was it.
Yeah.
I had to do the right things for him, right? Within a year, I was like divorced, gave up all my possessions, gave up everything that I had, like literally walked away from 10 years of things, and was basically homeless at this point, and didn't know who I was. And now, man, you want to talk about ashamed. I went from this brave, strong Marine with one of the highest awards in the country to like living like this. And I used to tell people like, I did the coolest things. I was the coolest I would ever be at 25. That's a rough life to live.
Yeah. To peak.
That's a rough life to live, to think that you don't have anything else left in your tank, that you're not going to accomplish anything else great. Because it's bullshit.
So you've got to find somewhere you feel like you belong at this point, just to start, just to dig you out.
Yep.
So you go to get a haircut? Is this with this big awakening? Is it where things started?
No, so I had barbered a little bit in the Marine Corps, and like I was
Barracks haircuts, we call them?
I was the deployment barber,
Yeah.
and then when I was in Quantico, I was like trying to see if I could maybe be a barber when I got out. So I was doing this like class and learned a little bit and cut all the lieutenants. So I was like, I don't want to be a plumber. I don't want to be covered in shit every day. This isn't like, I had somebody die for me personally, like Corporal Dutcher, like died for me. He was my guy that passed away for me to be here. And all these other guys, like, I'm meant for something different. I'm not meant to be this miserable and do this. And there was just starting, like, something started to change, right? Like, something started to change. And so I started barbering. I just started going to a barber shop, and I would sit there every day with my tools. And I would tell them, one of the dudes was a Marine that used to work there, and I knew a couple of the other ones, kind of. And I would just sit there and be like, I can cut hair, guys. Like, give me a shot. Like, you guys are busy. Like, give me my shot. And I would be in plumbing clothes, and I would sit there with my tools. Finally, one day I got my shot, and then from there on, I actually helped build the barber shop for my space, and then started barbering within 6 months. Well, so I'm doing that. I quit my job, like the plumbing job.
Yeah.
Right? I'm barbering. I'm making okay money. I'm drinking more, because when you're a barber, you can drink all day.
Wow.
So I started drinking more at this point, but I'm talking to people and I'm socializing, and I'm kind of getting out problems and facing some things because I'm trying to help other people. This little guy walks in the shop with a bald head, squatted posture, messed up ears, like 150 pounds. And he's like, hey, you're a big tough guy. Like, why don't you try jiu-jitsu? And didn't really know him. He actually ended up getting two of the other barbers to start jiu-jitsu. And that inspired me, between him and those two guys, that inspired me to try it. And the only reason I was going to try it is to shut these guys up.
Yeah.
Like, I was like, I'm going to go and beat both of you up. I don't even do jiu-jitsu, but like, that stuff's gay, and I'm going to fight both of you, you know? And so I went there and I tried my first day, and just like everybody else, I did okay because I was a black belt at McMap leading into it, and I could fight. I was a little tough, but I had a 170-pound Air Force guy.
Ouch.
Yeah, hold me on my...
As if your ego wasn't on thin ice as it is.
Right, I'm telling you.
Love you, Air Force. Just saying.
And he held me on my back. He was a blue belt. And he goes, keep trying, big guy. Keep trying. because I was like 200 pounds lifting weights, and he goes, "Come on, keep working." And after that match, I had to quit. I couldn't do any more matches that day. I was like puking in my mouth because it pushed me so hard.
Yeah.
And I just had the realization that I could never stop doing this until nobody could do that to me again.
Yeah.
Within 6 months of finding jiu-jitsu, my life changed. Within 6 months, the chemicals in your brain change. You know, I find out later it causes a chemical change in your body. I start trusting people and finding that bonds and those relationships that I was missing. You know, and now I'm in a community a little bit, and I'm finding something I'm passionate about. I go from training 1 day a week to 2 days a week to 10 times a week, you know, because I just found this passion again, that like something I liked and I cared about. And like, for whatever reason, I like these guys. They're trying to hurt me, but man, do I like them. and they're all successful people. That's the interesting thing about group fitness and fitness a lot of times. If you're out there grinding and doing these really hard things, you're probably successful in the rest of your life.
So that is very similar, the shared sacrifice of military service, the shared sacrifice a lot of times of being a first responder, and the shared sacrifice of working hard in the gym, pushing each other. That was the translation for you to, okay, I found a new community, a new sense of purpose.
Okay.
And then you did something magical. Now you've combined this to veteran Bushido, to where you're actually helping veterans. And this is a magical thing.
Yeah, so like 6 months, I remember there was a point in time where I woke up, I look in the mirror, and I'm like, who the hell were you? Like, who were you? I can't believe you were being such a piece of shit. You know, and that was the feeling, like, what happened? You know, because I didn't realize it, I didn't see it, I didn't know how I got there, and I didn't realize how I got out of it at that time. And it kind of like came around, I'm like, did jiu-jitsu do this? Like I found faith, I found my wife, I started a business, and I started immediately wanting to show other veterans jiu-jitsu. And that's how it started. I just started an event to show people jiu-jitsu, because I never saw it before prior to that day that I was reluctantly drug into the gym. And so I was like, I got to show other people this. This is magical. And that was the whole origin story of it. Is I started an event to show people jiu-jitsu. So I brought guns and beer and food, things that guys like, and then I did jiu-jitsu. So that these people would come and see other people fight, and be, you know, they're like, I want to do that.
Yeah.
I'll wrestle him. And it gets people inspired. The first year that I did it was like 6 months after, or it was 3 months after I started my barbershop. I had a veteran come, watch it, start jiu-jitsu. And I was like, that worked. Like that was the one.
Yeah.
I was looking for one.
Just one.
If I can help one, you know. And then that calling just started to grow, right? The event, then everybody loved it. Loved the event. Next year it grew a little bit bigger. Next year we had like 100 competitors.
Yeah.
And we had like 300 people there. And then 2021 is when I was really inspired to start my own nonprofit. You know, God called me at that point to start my own nonprofit.
Yeah.
I was frustrated because I had raised $8,500 at my event in 2020, and I was gonna give it to a place, and they wouldn't show up and meet me to even take my money because of COVID. And I said, man, I called the guy and I said, people are isolated right now. Isolation kills.
Right.
Isolation equals death. When you have PTSD and you have depression and we don't have friends and family and you have alcohol problems and now you're isolated because you're told that you have to, I said, I guarantee more veterans are dying now than ever.
There is something about that, and I call it solitary confinement. And it's what they do to prisoners to break them in their hopes that it doesn't. It just makes them crazier and crazier.
Yeah.
When you take someone who's dealing with all of those, the issues that drove them to be in the service-related issues that they've got maybe some kind of an addiction, and their thoughts are bouncing off of a wall.
Yeah.
It's unfair.
Yeah.
And that's a recipe for disaster. Right. So after COVID, though, you found a way to make this happen.
Yeah, so tried to give this guy the check. He wouldn't meet me. So I'm driving in my car, punching my windshield because I was so mad because I had friends that killed themselves. I've had friends that overdosed on drugs, and this problem is terrible. And I'm like, nobody cares. That's all I could feel like. Like nobody cares. Nobody's doing the right thing. And it drove me crazy. So I'm yelling in my car. And the answer came. It said, start your own. And I was like I got quiet and I was like, I don't know how to do that. And I was like, literally talking out loud, making excuses. I don't know what to call it. It came to me immediately, Veteran Bushido. And I was like, I kind of like that. That's a good name, you know? And I'm like, all right, I can kind of dig this. Then I was like, what are we going to do? And clear as day, sponsor veterans for 3 months to get into group fitness, period. Simple plan. And the idea was just like, all these other organizations and whatever, like, what are they actually doing to change people's lives? I don't know. Where does the money go? And when I would look into some places, it's never clear.
Yeah.
I'm like, how much money is actually helping people? And then is your event just running or is your organization just running some one-off event that looks real cool, but there's no long-term help?
Right.
You know? And that's what I would see. So I was like, I have to do my own. I have to do it. And how are we going to help? It's simple. Let's get veterans in group fitness. If I get them in group fitness, they have a chance.
There's two components to that are brilliant that I'm sure you thought about. The fitness aspect that is such the core of who veterans are.
Yep.
Before, during, and after, they had to stay fit for their service. But there's also that sense of community and camaraderie that they miss.
Yep.
That is such an important part of the bond. That is so crucial that you've combined those two into a place, getting them out of their houses to be around other veterans, share their experiences, share this shared sacrifice, and then get in the gym and experience that intensity together again. That is awesome.
And I can't even like claim that I came up with it. Like this isn't me. Like this is a calling on my life.
Yeah.
Like I don't have enough brain power to like actually think all this through. Right? Like it's too big of an idea and to actually see it carry out and what it has done over the years. So since 2021, we became our own nonprofit, literally through the barbershop. Everything was done for me. I had a lawyer that did all my paperwork. I had an accountant that did all my stuff.
Magical.
Like I just started talking about it and people that were already there, presented in my life at the right time, did it for free. And I'm like, man, when you do things in the wheel and you're in the flow, like it just happens. Like it's easy. And I was like, wow, like this is happening. This is a real thing. And so like the first year, May, we became our own nonprofit. We sponsored a guy right there. He's still doing jiu-jitsu. He's a dear friend of mine. He's in the Pittsburgh region.
Yeah.
Awesome dude. Awesome. Jorge. He's a killer dude. Great example. Turned his life around. He was like an Air Force guy again. And, you know, I can't help it, but I help anybody. Like, it was so simple to me. And I'm like, man, it needs to be simple.
Yeah.
It needs to be approachable. If I tell you I'm going to change your whole life and I want you to be a better father and a better member of society and
There's so many steps to get there.
So many steps.
So many steps.
It's not approachable. So if I tell you, hey, let's get you in the gym. Let's get you healthy. That's approachable, you know? And I found later, like when I got saved, that like, it's the message of Jesus. Like Jesus went to where people were.
Yeah.
He didn't like expect them to come to him, like be this holier person than ever, you know? Like he didn't expect that of anybody. He went to where they were. It's approachable. It's an approachable goal, something simple, keep it small, 90 days, just get you in the gym, get you training.
Yeah.
That's all I want to do. So, but there's a barrier. I had a barrier, and this is why I did it. When they were initially telling me to start jiu-jitsu, it was $120 a month.
Yeah.
I was like, that's a lot of money for something that I had never done before.
Yeah.
So the program is a hand up, not a handout. This is not a handout. That's why it's a 90-day program. That's why we pick you up off of the ground, and we get you on your feet, we dust you off, and I say, hey, go be a man.
Yeah.
Go be a woman. Go take the skills and the things that you've done in your life and run with it and be a better person. 2, it shows you the value before there's a cost. Because that cost barrier shuts people down. They might try it once, but they don't see the value in it. They don't see this value. So we remove it. We take it out of the equation. So I remove your excuses. That's an excuse. It's an excuse for you not to get better. That's an excuse to hold you back. You know, a lot of times our mindset is what holds us back in life. You know, we were talking about this earlier.
Yeah, I really want to get to this.
Yeah. So, you know, after Vietnam, you kind of saw like World War II veterans came back and killed it.
Parades, welcome home.
Right. And these dudes came back and what did they do? They picked up the hammers and they picked up the steel and they went to work.
They built America.
Yeah.
Korea, the forgotten war.
Yeah.
People didn't even know they were gone.
Right.
Vietnam was, we not only didn't want you there, we don't want you back.
Yeah.
That's why so many of them need that welcome home now in their 70s and 80s.
Yeah, absolutely. And they didn't know what to do, but they were told that they're broken, that they're wrong, that you have PTSD, you have this wrong with you. And that's like, that all started. And then our nation at that time started to separate. So at that point in time, like that was probably like where some of the biggest divisions started in our country. You know, you had all these factions fighting against each other, and like it wasn't one country that was proud about anything. And so like that's when that really started, and we have this separated country and guys coming back to it, and they're like, what did I fight for? And now I'm broken.
Yeah.
I'm broken. And if you live on these like these things, these labels that we put on ourselves, we label ourselves with comfortable excuses to fail. You know, we put these labels on ourselves, and we allow other people to put these labels on ourselves for its comfort, for me not to ever have to push and succeed.
You have an interesting thing, though, with veterans where we owe it to ourselves and we owe it to other people to succeed.
Yes.
Thank you for your service was a nice start, but there's more.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we went into this country, like we went to war, we volunteered, nobody made us. Like all of us volunteered. And then we get out and we're bitter and we're like owed something and we have this weird mentality, you know, like no, like men, women, we have hundreds of thousands of dollars of skills that people pay for, CEOs pay for. I actually teach it, you know. These skills that we've learned and adapted in the military, I have my leadership LLC. I teach businesses and individuals how to utilize military skills and capabilities in the world. Like this is valuable. This is a valuable thing that they gave to us.
So I want to touch on that, and then we're going to wrap here, but it's very important. So you've got Veteran Bushido, you've got your leadership LLC, but the things that you can teach go back to when you walked into the recruiter's office and you thought, I'm going to carry a gun. I want to go fight.
Yep.
But we whip out those things, those little plastic tags. They're called the intangibles. They're the life skills that you are blessed with after that 12 weeks of boot camp that only intensify throughout your service and your deployment. Yep. The leadership, the self-discipline, the self-reliance, the things that any corporation would hope that any employee has, and they're lucky to have a few that have it.
Yeah. Yeah, it's not.
And that's what you're teaching.
Yeah, it's not taught in school. They don't teach leadership in school. You know, they don't teach any of that in school. This is something that you have to either pick up and read books, and hopefully somebody mentors you. But a lot of people in leadership positions in the country that I've ran into, they were really good at their job. They were good salesmen, but they're never taught to be a leader. They're like a top salesman. They can sell. They don't know that they haven't been given the skills to lead. And it is such a skill set that the military, everybody that was in the military has this. It's boot camp knowledge. You know, Jocko's made a fortune selling it.
Yeah.
Those are boot camp principles.
So to plug your service here, and it's very important, you have a website for this?
Yes.
You want to give it real quick?
Yes, leadershipjf.com.
Leadershipjf for Jarek Fry. So this is the important thing, and I'll get to this because there's a book that came out called The Marine Corps Way. So many corporations, when they're looking for their middle and upper management, put out the resumes to get outsiders to come in. The Marine Corps is so very special, the military in general, but the Marines are very adamant about a private is taught then by a PFC, who's taught by a lance corporal, who's taught by a corporal. Yep. And at each level, you are ready to lead a greater group of people. Yep. If more corporations would learn that from people like you, they would have people that not only know their business, they know their people and they know their expectations. and it would grow, and people would have future thoughts of where they're going with the companies.
Yeah.
All this is so important, and it would be a great mindset. So it's really important to get you on board.
Yeah, and I mean, and decentralized control is what the Marine Corps thrives on. You know, like everybody inside of your unit does their own thing, and they have initiative, and they have good judgment, and they have good tact, and they're led well, so they can make decisions so that your job's easier. Because like a lot of times, if we don't lead well, we get micromanagement, we have things that fall off, and you know, like that's what happens. It makes your job harder. So like being a good leader and training up good leaders makes your job easier and your company easier. And these are superpowers that are given to you for free by the military, especially the Marine Corps.
All right, this is an incredibly easy conversation. I really appreciate you making the trip to come sit with us, to join us on Fit to Serve. I want to mention these things. Veteran Bushido, for sure.
Yes.
LeadershipJF.com. Get you out to their corporations and teach these intangibles and teach these things that are going to make your individuals better for the entire machine, which is incredibly important.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And thank you all for joining us on this episode of Fit to Serve. We look forward to showcasing your favorite veterans and first responders and talking about how the many facets of service before and after are enhanced by fitness. That's what we're all about here. We'll see you on the next Fit to Serve.